Hello. My name is Rolly S. Aday. I will be the first reporter on this topic, dimensions of the self. I will be discussing first what is the self, the dimensions of the self, what are they, and I will be discussing the first two parts before I will give the floor to the next reporter. So, before we start with the topic, dimensions of the self, first we have to describe what exactly is the self. Now, the self has a lot of interpretations by many philosophers, but in each of them, there is a consistent meaning. That is to say, the self is unique. Everybody has a different self. No self is the same. It's essentially self concept, how you think, what you feel, what is it that makes you. That's what the self is. If I were to compare it, I would like to compare it to a house. So the house is yourself, and each room of the house are different dimensions of the self, and how you take care of these rooms will influence yourself and how you go about your daily life. So the first part of dimensions of the self is the physical self. The physical self is probably the most important because it affects you directly. This include your sleeping habits. So if you sleep late or you sleep irregularly, it will affect your growth because a decent sleep is very important for us. So if you sleep late or sleep less, it will affect you as you grow up, and it will develop habits which are also part of the physical dimension, habits that will be unhealthy for you. And other habits that may be unhealthy for you include eating a lot of junk food, soft drinks, anything that will harm your body in the long run. These habits should be taken care of and should be turned into good habits so that when we grow up, these habits will help us because as the body grows, it reaches a point where it starts to degrade. When we get old, bones start to uh, become weak. We're not as fast as we used to be, and these habits that we cultivate, these are what makes us last throughout our years. So a good habit is important. Posture is important as well. You don't want to, when you sit, you don't want to have a bad posture because it will affect your spine, and the spine is very important, and it doesn't heal as efficient as other parts of the body. So if your spine gets damaged because of bad posture, it may be permanent. So we have to develop these good habits and exercise as well, because as we get older, it's harder to make physical effort. So start young and continue so that you will reap the benefits. That's the first dimension of the self, physical dimension. The next would be emotional dimension. Emotional dimension deals with emotions, our feelings, happiness, sadness, anger, jealousy, fear. These emotions are a very important part of ourself because these are what drives us to do things. For example, if you are always sad, you may be prone to suicidal tendencies. If you are happy, you may be prone to helping more people, smiling more. It's hard to keep you down, and it's very important. Now, it's impossible to always be happy. It's impossible to always be optimistic. So that's why in emotional dimension we need to learn to control our emotions, because otherwise we would throw tantrums every time there's a mistake. there's something that's not going our way, and it's very very bad for us because uh, we need to take care of ourselves, and if we do not have the right mindset for it, then it will only lead to further degradation. So to take care of ourselves, we need to be emotionally prepared. We need to be stable, and we need to develop how how we control these emotions. uh, a good a good example, now, a good example of controlling or your emotions is empathy. Empathy is for you to uh, put yourself in the shoes of others. If you're having a bad day, for example, you see someone else struggling, you say to yourself, what would happen if I put myself in his or her shoes? Would my problem seem bigger? Is it really as big as I make it out to be? Or am I just overreacting? So things like that allow you to take a look at yourself, and you're able to determine if what you're doing, what your if your handling of your emotions is healthy or not. The ability to empathize with others, to know their struggles, to see if what you're experiencing is good enough that you would dwell on it. Now, everybody has different limitations to what they can handle. Just because your problem seems small doesn't mean it's automatically not worth it. But you should know the limits to what you can handle, and you should not always uh, throw tantrums because everything doesn't seem to be going your way. It's not an excuse for you to just go about and just blame everyone and everything. You have to take responsibility, and if if it's really worth it, because sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. Just take a look at yourself objectively, and empathy is one way to realize that. The next part would be the social dimension, and that's not mine anymore. But it's important to know these. It's important to know this because as we grow up, these dimensions of ourselves will serve as our basis, as our foundation, how we are going to be as a person in the future. If what we develop right now are bad habits, uh, bad emotional handling, then when we grow up, we will be a burden to society because we always complain we can't work, and it's very disheartening. So that's why we need to study this because it is very important. Uh, if I think about it, uh, even when I was not younger, but when I was still in high school, my emotional self wasn't as developed because uh, I would sulk when when things didn't go my way. I would sulk. I would I would be sad all the time, and it really hurt those around me because I pitied myself too much, and they weren't used to it. They were used to me being happy, and uh, what I was doing was being selfish because people were worried about me, but I was only worrying about myself, and it hurt others. So I learned a lesson there, and it helped me grow as a person. So in the future, uh, this will help me become a better person because my foundation is stronger. And I hope that you guys will be able to also learn something and be able to use it in the future, because as teachers it is our job to teach the future generation. And how can we teach the future generation if we ourselves are not capable of taking care of ourselves? So this lesson is very important, and I hope that you learned something. Now let's continue on to the next topic, and that will be handled by Jean Francie. So good luck, Jean.
Thank you, Rolly. So now, let's proceed with the social-cultural dimension. Social-cultural process begins at birth and continues to expand as we grow. It is characterized by the understanding of self and of the awareness of others. So, through socialization, the self gains experiences in one's surrounding. To lead healthy and normal lives, we all need to acquire a set of social skills. These skills help us to build up relationships with others in society and also enable us to function effectively. So social cultural dimension enhanced by nurturing a few basic human qualities like trust, faith, cooperation, establishing a relationship, and respecting others' culture. So through social cultural dimensions, this is how we respect others' culture. And in this way, we can build a trust, faith, and cooperation to others, or establishing a relationship. Next is the mental dimension. Mental dimension refers to the mind, part of nature which deals with cognition, intelligence, ideas, thoughts, perceptions, mental formations, mental vision, and wills. So an instrument of organization and of mental movements and needs nurturing for optimal development. So the mental dimension, dinhi nato makita, so diri nato a nature nga madil nato, which is magamit nato atong cognition, intelligence, pag-share sa ato ang thoughts and perceptions in life. So now, let's proceed with the parts of the mind. The first part of the mind is the sita, or the storehouse of memory. So, sita, or the storehouse memory, is the reservoir of the past impressions. When we say reservoir, it means the source of something that we have in the memory. Second one is the manas, or mind proper. So in manas, or mind proper, it works 3 stages. First is the thinking mind. The thinking mind, it observe, understanding, and inquiring knowledge and ideas. The second one is the dynamic mind. The dynamic mind is about our reactions of the ideas in life. The third one is the external mind. So when we say external mind, it's about the expressions of the ideas in life. So those are the 3 work stages in the manas, or mind proper. The third part is the buddhi, or intellect. This is the source of our thoughts in life. So, dinhi na belong ang maka-form ta sa ato ang mga thoughts nga ma-share nato in life. So, the fourth, or the last part of the mind is the higher faculties. So, in this part, it consists of intuitive and discriminative mind. And it also separates from a gifted to an ordinary mind. So, hindi na to makita sa higher faculties tong about how the mind is making an descriptive or discriminative or intuitive. Okay, so now let's proceed with the development of faculties of the mind. So development of faculties in mind, we are also have 4. The first one is the observation. This is how we see or how we give things or how we give an opinion about something. For example, ang teacher niyo gahatag og picture, like example this. Okay, class. What is the picture tells us all about? So in that way, magamit na nato ang development of the faculties in mind, which is the observation. So in mind, makuha na nato ang mga ideas nga how we observe things. The second one is the memory. The memory. So in this part, diha nato makita ang dira ma-store ang mga past memories, itong mga past life. Dira ma-test ang usa ka tawo if we are able to remember things or to remember things about memories in the past. The third one is the imagination. I guess everybody are relate ani nga imagination. Like of course me, I also imagine things, especially before I go to bed. I always think of something, maybe on my future, the future me, or about something I want to do in life. So the imagination is also important because it creates thoughts. So the activities that empower imagination is like designing graphics, furnitures, jewels, and other craft. So in that way we can build dira nato mapakita if how we imagine things. So the last part is the judgment. So in this way, we are able to judge things from good to good or bad. So in judgment, we can form an conscious part and unconscious part. Conscious part is what we know about, and unconscious part is what we don't know about in life. But I guess overall sa atoang life, we have an unconscious part because there are lots of things we don't know yet here in the world or in our life. So those are the development of faculties of the mind: the observation, memory, imagination, and judgment. So the example of judgment is like the comparison or contrast of something. So in that way, it develops a judgment of a person, of how we judge, though it is good or bad. So to compare and contrast is also an example of how we judge things. And now let's proceed with the spiritual dimension. Spiritual dimension is an awakening to inner reality of our being, to a spirit or a self which is other than mind, life, and body. It is an inner aspiration to know, to feel, to entertain, and to contact with the greater reality pervading the universe as well as inhabiting ourselves. So the spiritual dimensions, it talks about ourself, the soul, our mind, of how we pervade the universe, in the universe, as well as inhabiting ourselves. So the spiritual dimension is also important for us individuals. So next, let's proceed with the psychic and spiritual. Psychic and spiritual is knowing oneself and mastering oneself. So to know ourselves, one shall be able to know psychic with him or her. So when we say psychic, it means it relates to the soul and mind. So psychic is described as the divine nucleus which stand behind the mind, body, and life. Next, the spirituality and religion. Religion is permitted with rites, rituals, and ceremonies. So religious life is the first approach to the spiritual. I agree with that, class, because spirituality or the religion is one thing that we need to have in life. So it is also one to approach the spiritual part, because example of that is, diba, if we are born here in earth, baby pata, diba, the first step to have a religion is to have the religion or religious life is kanang ibunyag ta. So in that way, we are able to approach to the spiritual thing or the religious part. Spirituality has no set method, but relies on universal values such as harmony, peace, beauty, truth, perfection, equality, and silence. And it enables us to lead more satisfied, fulfilled, and enriched lives. So the spirituality and religion is another significant part, because it guides us our life to value the universal part, and to have a harmony, peace, beauty, truth, perfection, equality, and silence in life. And now, my personal reflection of thoughts about the dimension of the self is this topic really helps us individual, because it educates us, it teaches us on how we develop our character, or how we develop ourselves. It also teaches us that the spiritual or religious of ourselves, the religious of ourselves is it connects us with God. It enables us to develop a good relationship with others, like a socio-cultural dimension. It teaches us, or it develops to have trust, faith, cooperation, and building a relationship with others, or respecting others' culture. And also in the mental dimension, this is also important for ourselves, because as a citizen in this life, or in this place, or in this community or society, we can have or share ideas and thoughts and that way magamit na to ang ato ang mental dimension, and the parts of the mind and the functions functions or the faculties of the mind. It also tells us that those things nga, ang kana di ay past, the reservoir past of impressions is sa sita day na siya, or the storehouse of the memory, or ang budhi di ay ang budhi ba di ay is the one nga dinhi nato makuha ang ato ang mga thoughts in mind, ana day na siya sa budhi parts of the mind ni nana. Then ang manas di ay, or the or it has a work 3 stages, like the thinking mind, dynamic mind, and external mind. So, in our community and society, the dimension of the self really helps us. It builds us good ethics in life. And also, we can educate because we educate ourselves, we can also give our learning to others, and to be able to know, to be able to educate them that the dimension of the self is really important. It helps us in our daily quests. It guides us to a more peaceful harmony, or a more calm in life. So, in our community, our society, it really helps. It really helps because we can have, para manaatay mga good ethics sa kinabuhi, para ma-share nato sa uban, and at the same time, maka-gain tag knowledge about them, about us, and to everyone. Okay, that will be the end of my report. I'm Jean Francie Balanay. Thank you, and God bless.